everybody, it's Chris Eads, known online as Wootini, here with another Gay Gamer video podcast. This weekend, I went to see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse in IMAX, just because I can, because it doesn't cost anything extra with my AMC A-list. It was good, but I am going to do something that I normally would never do. I'm going to spoil the end of the movie for you all right now, because I think it's very important that you know, going into this film, that it is not a whole movie. It's just the first half. It is part one. Apparently, it was originally marketed as Across the Spider-Verse Part 1, but then they decided to change the title of the next one to Beyond the Spider-Verse, so they dropped the Part 1. So, no, going into it, knowing that it was just a part one, that would have been great, and then I wouldn't have been so angry and disappointed at the end. Because it is good. It's very good. And it was just really frustrating to get to the end, and instead of having any kind of wrap-up, it was just literally to be continued. It's not even like they wrap it up with some threads that will continue into the third movie. It's literally just to be continued. Big cliffhangers, everything's crazy. What are we going to do now? You got to wait till next year. So that kind of sucked. And like half the theater is like applauding and cheering and wooing at the credits. And I'm just like, I'm kind of mad, honestly. I'm a little pissed off here. Because like I didn't get a full movie experience. I got the first half of a movie experience. And if I'd known that going in, I probably would have enjoyed it more. And I would have had that rough ending there. So heads up, it's part one. Don't expect any kind of closure at the end of this movie. Just a big-ass cliffhanger. It's also a little annoying that knowing that they were going to split this whole story into two movies, that you still sit there with an hour's worth of setup before you get to the real juicy plot stuff. That seems weird to me, because I'm like, if you're splitting this across two movies, like, you can maybe do them like 90 minutes each instead of 2 hours plus each, but whatever. Because it did feel like the first hour, I'm like checking my watch and I'm like, oh my God, when are we going to get to the plot? Like, when is things going to start getting rolling and stuff? And it's fine because it is the Spider-Verse, so it is like the characters are good and there's lots of great dialogue and there's some good character moments and it is fun. But it was still a little frustrating, just it took so long to like really get the gears going. And then once that happens, once things start going, and it's like, then it's just like an assault. It's just like a freight train, and you're just like, holy crap, what's happening? There's no checking the watch. It's just one crazy twist and turn after another, and you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And the Spider-Verse is terrific. There's so many clever references, half of which I'm sure even I missed. My husband is a bigger Spider-Man fan and read more of the comics, so he'd probably get more gags than I did. Personally, I thought that the Ben Reilly gags were some of the funniest, but that's just me. And I wasn't even realizing that they were running out of time in the running time because I wasn't checking my watch anymore. So suddenly I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. What's going to happen next? And then it's to be continued. And I'm like, oh, nothing's going to happen next. Nothing's going to happen until next year. Oh, well, never mind. So I do highly recommend it. It's great. But just know going into it, you're getting half a movie. So you're not disappointed like I was. As for gaming, as you know, I had bought the Knights of the Old Republic 2 for my Switch because I wanted some nice in-depth role-playing game to play over the 4th of July holiday when I'm traveling back and forth to Massachusetts. Make the bus trip go by. So I was looking forward to that, but I figured I would wait until later in July to start it, both so that I'd be in the middle of the game and could really be enjoying it, and also because Aspyr was supposed to be releasing the Lost Content DLC, because basically when Knights of the Old Republic 2 first came out, it was taken from BioWare and given to another developer so that they could get it out quicker. and there's apparently like characters and storylines and like entire planets and missions that like they ended up cutting from the game because they just didn't have time to implement them all fully and bug test it and get it all working properly. And somebody on a PC found the code and they created a mod, and so the PC people were playing the mod, which was still slightly broken because, like, you know, they hadn't finished it really. But Aspyr was supposed to be finishing that lost content and releasing it as DLC so that you can play it. And I was like, well, I want to get the game because Switch was having a sale and it was like $10. So I said, well, I'll get this game for $10 and I'll just sit on it for a while, play it over the 4th of July holiday and stuff, and maybe by then they'll have released the lost content DLC. Well, yesterday I happened to see, thank God, somebody retweeted this. Aspyr tweeted out an apology saying there will not be any lost content DLC. Womp womp. However, I wasn't really surprised by this. It's been delayed and delayed and delayed, so I wasn't really expecting to get it ever. So there's a lot of people who are pissed off, but I'm like, whatever. I wasn't really expecting it, but they're offering, as a consolation prize, they're offering a free Star Wars game for the Switch, one of the Star Wars ports that they did for the Switch, and you can get a free copy to say sorry. So I'm like, great. And I've already played Nicely Old Republic 1 back in the day on my Xbox, and it was great. And I didn't buy that one for $10 because I'm like, I don't want to play it again. It's not really necessary. Plus, Aspyr was supposed to be doing a remaster of it for the current gen consoles, though I am now super highly skeptical that that's ever going to see the light of day. So I'm kind of torn between, like, obviously I don't want like the pod racing game and I don't want Republic Commandos, but I'm like, okay, Force Unleashed could be good, and also Jedi Academy. They also have the sequel, but I feel like I would play the first one first before the sequel, unless the first one is like so crappy that they're like, just skip it and play the sequel because the first one's so bad. But I don't know. So if you could help me make this decision, if you've played The Force Unleashed or Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, and let me know which is the better game that I should pick to get for free for my Switch. If you could help me out in the comments, that would be super swell. Thanks a bunch. Because I don't want to miss out. I want to pick something soon. So I'll like check the reviews, I guess, and see what's what and make a decision. Because it is time to start a new game, because I have finished the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. And I have to say, it was delightful. It was another delightful Ace Attorney game. They're just so much fun. You know, they just have such a great story, and the characters are so funny, and they're so weird and fun, and like the twists and turns as they suddenly, these little separate cases become this big conspiracy, and they're all interconnected, and you know, like, they're pulling characters from here and there and everything, and it's, oh my god, what's this? What's happening? Oh my god. Of course, being an Ace Attorney game, it is a little tricky sometimes. Like, you get to a trial and they're like, present evidence to prove this, and sometimes I'm like, I have no idea what you're asking for, and that's when I save my game so I don't lose points and end up accidentally getting a game over because I keep presenting the wrong evidence, and they're like, no, that's not it. No, that's not it. No, that's not it. So if I'm not 100% sure of what evidence I'm supposed to present, I hit save just to be on the safe side. And after I present like 3 or 4 pieces of evidence and nothing is working, that's when I go to a walkthrough, because I'm like, I have literally no idea what they're looking for. It's just too obscure and it's weird. And then I'm like, oh, why am I presenting that? Okay. And then it opens up a whole new thing, and you're like, okay, I guess that makes sense. But sometimes it's just a little obscure and I can't quite figure out what they're looking for. But that's to be expected. It's happened in every single Ace Attorney game I've ever played. I've always hit those moments where I'm like, wait, what? But overall, it's a lot of fun. And I did appreciate that in the end, they had callbacks to because the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles on Switch is the two Great Ace Attorney games from the DS or 3DS that they just put on one cartridge and put together. And like the first game is good, and then the second game comes along and kind of eases you back into the trials again. And then it starts to pull from the first game all these elements and stuff to create this huge conspiracy, and it just becomes completely insane. And they managed to not completely character assassinate one of my favorite characters, though they came very close. But it was really good, and I thought the story was just fantastic, the way they brought everything together. It's also a little tricky because, like, when I was saying about we don't know what evidence to present to prove your case, because I'm always like, I always feel like most of the time I'm like a step ahead, and I'm like, okay, I figured out what it is, and you have to kind of like work your way towards that moment of revelation, but you already kind of know. It was like, oh, it's him. I just need to figure out how to get them to get everyone else in the courtroom to that revelation. But there were still plenty of twists and turns that I did not see coming. And I was like, oh my goodness. And it was quite satisfying, especially because I feel like there was a lot of game there, you know. It lasted a long time. There's lots of cases, lots of investigations, lots of trials, lots of everything. And it lasted a while. Yes, obviously it lasted a while because I played the first game and then took a long break before I started the second half. So yes, it lasted a very long time for me, but I think if you were to play it straight through, there's a lot of game there, which is good because you're not going to go back and play it again. You know, it's not like a movie where you'll watch it again because it's only a couple hours long. A game like this, it's like, you're not going to play it again because you already know the story, and it's going to take you like weeks to get through it. So, yeah, good that it's a long game because you're probably not going to play it again. So it is time now to pick something else to play. And as I said, I was trying to wait until later in June to start Knights of the Old Republic 2. And as I knew that I was like, once I'd wrapped up the case and I was in the epilogue stuff, I decided that I would go and check. There's a new PlayStation sale, Day of Plays or whatever the hell it's called. Days of Play, that's it. And up to 70% off some games. Let me just see what they've got going. And one of the things that they had was 25% off all PlayStation Plus plans. So like I could have like spent like, you know, $20 and upgraded to like the Epic plan where I get all these free games and stuff, but I don't want to have to pay $100 a year after that. Like I don't want to pay for $100 for that afterwards, so I'm not upgrading. It's not really worth it for me because I'm never going to play. I don't have time to play all those games, so like upgrading to one of those plans is not really a good idea for me, to have this huge library of games that I could just play. I'd rather just stick with the essential plan and just play like a couple of games, you know, here and there. There's usually at least one game every month that I'm like, okay, that's a free game, I'll take that. But in this sale, in addition to upgrade, I did buy another year of PlayStation Plus Essential because it was 25% off, and I was like, hey, if I can get a little discount, let's keep it going. So I just added another year on. I'm not sure how much I have left on this subscription, but now I have another year to go. But looking at the games that were on sale, I was like, oh, there's not really anything that good. And then I saw they had Gotham Knights on sale for like $23 and change. And I said, hey, that's not a bad price. I've been waiting for it to come down to about $20. And I'm sure that if I waited another like 3 or 4 months, it would come down to like $18.99 or something. But I'm like, 23 and change that's good enough. So I went ahead and bought that, downloaded it to my PS5. But then after finishing Ace Attorney, and then like watching the credits, which took forever because there was like, you know, each character gets a little epilogue in the credits. They have a little dialogue and stuff, and then they do the walking credits, which I just adore. When it finished, there was in the menu, there was, you know, special content, and when I went in there, because I feel like I went in there in the very beginning, but now I went in now to see if there's anything after finishing the game, you get any extras. And I was reminded that there's this whole section in there with all these little like mini episodes. And I don't know how in depth they are. I don't know if they're just like little like 5-minute dialogue scenes or whatever. I don't know what they are, but I'm like, I kind of want to play those just to see what they are. So Gotham Knights is going to have to sit on my hard drive for a little bit longer before I start that. So come back next episode where I will have finished those last little epilogue scenes for Ace Attorney, and I will have some first impressions on Gotham Knights. See you then. Bye!